Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of what we are temporarily calling Doctor Who with a question mark. Is that right, Jack?
I think that's spot on, to be honest, because one of the two of us, or soon to be one of the three of us, has never actually seen Doctor Who before,
Yes,
which I
exactly.
know many of you have just cringed at and have gone, how have you never seen Doctor Who, yet you're appearing on a Doctor Who podcast? But that's the whole point. So that's part of the name. So Josh, you
Exactly.
break it down for the audience at home and what we're kind of looking to achieve and do.
Yeah, exactly. So I am Josh. With me is my co-host Jack Phillips. Jack Phillips is the one that has never seen Doctor Who before. So in the lead up to David Tennant coming back, and just to give me another excuse to really rewatch every episode, we thought, why don't we sort of go episode by episode, week by week? We're also going to have a third party joining us. Sorry, Bradley Fuller. He might join us next week. I think he'll probably flake on it, but he's also a big fan of Doctor Who. So I've watched every episode since it came out live, since I was 7 years old, whatever. My favourite show, absolutely love it to bits. Jack, you haven't, right?
I haven't, no, never seen it before. I'm aware of it through conversations with you and Brad, and I know that at some point we're going to be getting to who the best doctor is or who you think the best doctor is. And I know there is going to be many an arguments had on that. But no, myself, I've never seen any episodes before. As I said, I'm aware of it. I listen to a favorite YouTuber of mine. He does a really, really good podcast on it. He's a massive fan, but I've never seen it. And of course, that's part of the reason I agreed to do this podcast is I thought, I'm 25 years down the line, should probably start watching it at some point. So here we are. Yeah.
All right, so let's jump straight in with season one, episode one. You've never seen it before. I saw it for the first time when I was 7 years old, and I think I've watched it 1,000 times since. Overall thoughts on the episode?
I've got to say, in terms of uh, first episodes, I thought it was actually very good. Um, you always look at, I mean, I know that, of course, Doctor Who had run previously in the old Who, but as far as I could tell, this was a complete fresh reboot. It'd been
Not a
several years
reboot.
between.
Not a reboot.
Well, kind of like, but they brought it back. When was the last episode before Rose? It was must have been
89 or something like that,
there you go.
88.
So we're looking at kind of what 15, 20 years in between the two. So it's trying to capture a new audience, trying to reignite that Doctor Who spark. And I've got to say, I think it was a great it's almost like a pilot episode, isn't it? You're reintroducing the Doctor, reintroducing the companion. You want a little bit of mystery, kind of an overall mystery and everything. And I've got to say, I thought it was very good, and it really made me miss the noughties because I'm a flip
It's
phone.
very noughties, isn't it? It's quite dated now. It is
Yeah,
quite dated, yeah.
it's when she got up to the generic alarm tone, the little alarm clock radio, and it was with the flip phone, and I'm just sitting there thinking, yeah, we grew up at that time,
We did, yeah, we did. I'm just gonna say straight off the bat, I fucking love this. I'm gonna be critical as much as I can about this episode, but this is top tier television, man. This is
it's
nearly
per
20 years old and it's
yeah,
still sick, right?
it stands up. It does stand up. I've got to say, I mean, it did make me laugh because I think if you rewatch the I don't know what they actually called the mannequin, like the actual mannequins themselves, but of
The
course I'm
Autons,
assuming
yeah.
there you go, that's them. So when you notice when they walk, they kind of walk with their heads a little bit tilted up, and I'm assuming that's because there were no eyes, like kind of eye holes in the masks, and the only like holes they could get was, I'm assuming, on the bottom of the nose.
Yeah,
So
mate,
I'm assuming
that's
that
so
that they
let's
were
talk
walking.
about the Autons then. There's some
Yeah.
scary shit, right? Like
Oh
that
yeah, for
first
sure.
when that head tilts that first time in, that's quite scary, right?
Straight off the bat, you go down. I mean, first of all, I wasn't sure she was actually trying to steal money because I couldn't work out because as she goes to walk out, the security guard hands her a bag of money, which I then
Yeah, yeah.
understand is I think it was like a kind of a lotto syndicate thing or something
A
like that.
syndicate, yeah, exactly. Oh, well, presumably, yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming so. Yeah, I mean, maybe she just forgot to cash out or something. Who knows? But she's straight in the basement. I mean, straight away you're on edge. You're like, what's going on here? It's
Yeah.
dark. It's dingy.
Well, you
And
notice
that's
even
it.
the so it's this hectic. So they start off with the montage of her day-to-day life, right? I just want to say one
Hmm.
thing about that. I fucking love it. Mickey is brilliant in it. Rose is brilliant in it. But they
Yep.
leave their rubbish on the fountain. Did you notice that? It
No,
put me on edge. They're eating lunch and then they just leave their sandwich wrappers and drinks and they just walk
yeah.
away.
I
I
mean, that is
know.
that true naughties, kind of thought process there. I
Give a
mean,
fuck
nowadays,
attitude, isn't it?
nowadays,
Yeah,
cancelled on Twitter. That would have been it. You'd have been cancelled on
exactly. Yeah,
Twitter
yeah.
quicker than you could leave the rubbish.
But yeah, so you've got that hectic sort of montage. The music is quite quirky, and then the lift opens up on the basement or closes at the top, and the music stops and it's dead stop. So you're right, that
Yeah,
eerie atmosphere is created straight away. Right, I made a note and then I had to scribble it out. When she goes to what's the guy's name? Is it Wilson? The door says CEO. Like, what the fuck
right.
is the CEO of the company doing, collecting
I
lottery money with an office in the basement? What's this about?
Funny thing is, I did exactly the same thing because I thought when the security guard hands her the money, I thought he said go and find the CEO. So I wrote, why is the CEO's office in the basement? I mean, if you're the CEO, you want a nicer view rather than a kind of a couple of concrete
Exactly.
walls. But I thought, looking back at the sign, I think it said like kind of engineer CEO,
Yes. Well, no.
which is
So
really
yeah,
weird.
that's why I struck the note out because then later I think she explains to the doctor and he says, "Who is Wilson?" She goes, "The electrical operator or something like that." So I think
Yeah,
that sort of makes it. But I was like, "See her in the basement." That sounds ridiculous. Um, yeah. All right. So that's all happening in the basement. Terrifying autons, and then they're about to karate chop her in the head. I think is how they're going in for their kill, right? And the doctor grabs
yeah.
her hand. What do you think of Christopher Eccleston as the doctor?
I like him, to be honest. I really, really do like him. Again, first impression, he's got that kind of quirkiness, I guess. There's never, he's very kind of almost got a colourful attitude, it's very matter of fact, and it kind of goes on slightly later in the episode when they meet Rose's mum. And Rose's
Yeah,
mum is,
yes.
kind of getting it on, lighting the candle. She's like, I'm just out the bath, all that stuff. But he's just like, oh yeah, I can see you're in your room. Oh yeah, I can see you're in. There's no. He's very matter of fact, but he's very flamboyant. He's active, and it right. I know I'm jumping around a bit, but even right towards the end of the episode as well, straight away he's talking about convention. He does everything by the book for the fairness of
We'll
everything.
come back to that. Definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely
But
come back to that. You're right. So I actually, at the start of it, I put a note saying, is he too normal in this? That was my thing because having watched Doctors Down the Line, I quite like the alienness about them. And I thought, is he too normal in this? At the beginning, he's very, like you said, matter of fact. But no, I think you're absolutely right. That scene when he goes into the apartment for the first time, when he meets Jackie for the first time, he's fucking brilliant, man. Where he's just so
yeah,
jovial and he's flicking through the books and he's doing all this sort of stuff. That's excellent. You're right. He reads through the magazine. Oh, that won't work. He's gay and she's an alien or something like that. You're like,
yeah.
okay, this is cool. This is
It's
cool.
it is brilliant, and that I think, as I said, you've had the luxury of seeing the other doctors and seeing what actor brings what to the table. That's it. But as a first impression, I think it's brilliant, and it's yeah, it's very good. But the interesting thing is talking about when he's in Rose and her mum's apartment for the first time. I am sure because he looks in the mirror. It's the first time he sees himself in the mirror, and he says about his ears and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I am sure it took me 5 attempts to re-listen on it. And I'm pretty sure he says, I'd like to be a lady.
Uh,
I'm,
I don't
I'm,
know. I'd have to rewatch it. Did you not put the subtitles on?
no, that's probably a fair point, actually. You know what? I may do that next week. There you go. But yeah, no,
I'd
I'm
like to be a
sure,
lady.
which is interesting because, of course, I do know, I don't live under a rock, but I know that the previous Doctor was Jodie Whittaker,
Yeah, well, the
you know,
future Doctor.
or the future Doctor. Yeah, but, for us, the last Doctor, that's come through. But yeah,
Interesting.
so
I've
that's
never
in,
picked up on that. I'd be surprised if it is that. But yeah, okay, no, fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, that's fucking awesome. What do you think of Rose?
yeah, you know what? Again, very noughties. Kind of bootcut jeans or flare jeans or whatever they were called. But I've got to say, there is a question I had to ask myself: is after everything that had happened, would you jump into a random box with a stranger you have just met in the past half a day? Would you actually jump in there or not?
I don't know if this is
Because I
just
don't think I
because,
would.
even if you knew that this, because she's been in the TARDIS, right? So she knows that that is magical.
Yep, yep.
I think I probably would. Yeah, I think I probably would.
You would. Yeah, I'm not
Uh,
sure.
right, hold into your head because obviously she says no initially, right? And he goes away, he
Agreed.
comes back, and he says, "By the way, it travels in time, right?"
Yep, yep.
And she fucking runs for it. Hold that in mind.
Okay.
That may or may not come back in a few episodes' time.
Well, I'm guessing it's something to do with the dad.
What?
Well, because so there's no dad involved, is there? So I'm assuming either the dad's run off or the dad's dead.
Just hold
50-50
it in
chance.
mind. We'll get to it. We'll get to it down the line. But Rose is fucking brilliant. There is not, genuinely, this is such a good episode. There's not a moment's wasted dialogue in this. Even as soon as she gets in the lift, he starts like quizzing her. Go on then, who could it be? Who could it be? She's like, it must be students because how else would you get a group together that big to do it? And
Yep.
his face lights up and he's like, yes, brilliant. And then if we jump to the end, she does her gymnastic skills and everything. She's a sick companion because she does things herself, right? That's what's quite. She shows that she's not on the same level as the Doctor. She's never dealt with aliens and stuff like that, but she can hold her own, right? And that's why the Doctor's impressed with her. Do you
I
sort
think
of agree?
yeah, I do agree. Because the whole point of her companion is they fill in the missing pieces of the main character. Agreed.
Yeah.
So the Doctor provides that knowledge of alien life and the technology and almost the initial kind of plan. He's like, we're doing this. This is how we're doing it. And then, well, for example, the kind of the conclusion of this episode, the Doctor has a plan. Locate the kind of the I can't remember what the main molten plastic was called now.
The
Locate
nesting consciousness.
That's it, the nesting consciousness. Locate that, reason with it, get it to leave Earth, and that's it. That's the initial plan. Of
Yeah.
course, that doesn't happen. He can't reason with it. So Rose then has to make a plan B, and then she comes in and she says, uses her gymnastic skills, and that's it. And I
Which
think with,
never come up again. That's such a weird inclusion
I
because
mean,
it
was
works
it
in the episode.
gymnastic?
No, it was swinging on a rope.
Just,
It was, or on a chain, or whatever it was. But like that
yeah.
should, again, we're jumping ahead, but that never comes back. She never uses anything remotely gymnastic esque again, from memory anyway. That's such a weird inclusion, I reckon. Like,
Yeah.
again, I love it. I don't think there's anything wasted, but that to me is a bit odd, especially considering it never comes back.
No, that's true. Well, there you go. I mean, that's it. I mean, look, it could almost have that kind of pilot episode thing. A few things that I've watched previously where they've had pilot episodes, they mention things because it's all to do with the test audience as well. You've got to remember.
Yeah, true, true.
And a test audience may have turned around and said, "Oh, that was really good, but why was she swinging on a rope? That's not or a chain." And so you just don't know, do you? But
No,
I've got
you're
to
right.
say though, I was really really interested. Talking about pilot things and test audiences, really, really intrigued that the BBC decided, someone at the BBC decided that, we have these mannequin monsters. Brilliant. There's male mannequin monsters, female mannequins, even children mannequins, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But the initial chase down the hallway has a female mannequin with its top open.
A bit of cleavage on show.
And I was sitting there, I had to laugh because I was just like, someone somewhere in the BBC made a decision in the wardrobe thing, and they went, "That is what we want." And I just can't rack my brain around why they would do that. It's a
Rack your
very
brain if you'll pardon the pun.
yeah. They are. I just realised what I've done. Yeah, but I mean that's it. I couldn't work out why. I mean, it's just funny though. I mean, maybe they were just having a lot. Maybe you just don't
I
know. It's
totally missed that. I totally missed the tits. I
I
have
just
to go
well,
back and
that was the
watch
other
it.
thing because there was two things. There was two things writing notes because again I'm writing notes as I'm watching it like you did. Two things. One, the word mannequin took me several attempts to learn how to correctly spell the word mannequin because that is a difficult word. And the
It's
second
quite
thing is of course when I saw it, the fact that all I just wrote was mannequin boobs and that was it. It was just like yeah, that's all I need on that one. But yeah, no, I've got to say though, it was because something I have heard of Doctor Who, and I'm sure I'm going to be seeing more of this, is they always do it with a limited budget.
yes.
There's never, it's never over the top CGI and everything like that, and you could see that. I mean, as I said, I appreciate this was set in when was this 2006? 2006, was it?
5, yeah, would have been filmed in
2005.
2004,
Wow.
released in 5, yeah,
So yeah,
literally
so
18 years
you
old.
can tell that, but at the same time though, I thought it actually stood up pretty well. I've seen worse films now that wouldn't stand up as well as that did. And
No, well, it had better CGI than The Flash, that's for sure.
oh, that's another question, but no, I disagree with that.
That's a
But
topical reference.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so
that's
these
it.
mannequins, apparently there's no CGI. They're men in suits. There's a zip on the back of the head, which they CGI out on the back of the shots. But other than that, it's all completely practical.
Yeah,
Mad, insane,
I like it.
brilliant.
I like it. I think it's brilliant, and a lot more films need to look back at that. I know we have the luxury of CGI and everything like that, but that's you do miss that kind of. I look back at the old Star Wars films, and I know that the old Star Wars films were made with toys and props and everything like
Yeah,
that, but it just looks cool. I
yeah.
think that's it, and yeah, it is interesting. I mean, that was the other thing as well that did make me chuckle was you could tell that they were obviously shooting it on a budget because they go past the London Eye, which of course is a very you know photograph placed in London and everything like that. And I'm assuming they probably couldn't afford to shut down the part outside the London Eye during the day. So they had to, I'm assuming, shoot it at night because that was the only kind of leverage that they could get to shoot it down. But again, they made it work. That they
Exactly,
obviously had
yeah,
a budget and
exactly.
they were like, right, we have to work within this budget, and they've done that. And I think that's brilliant.
No,
I've got
you're
to say
right.
it was impressive.
Talking of that nighttime shot, there's a bit where they're running across whatever bridge it is in London. I don't know which bridge it is. The one where you can see Parliament in the background. They're running across it, and two double-decker London buses drive past. Right? They didn't
Mm.
own those double-decker buses. They didn't rent it. They literally made Billy Piper and Christopher Eccleston stand on the side of the road until a bus naturally drove past, and then they're like, "Shit, right, action, let's go, let's go." That's how they did that. It's on a
Oh
budget. I
dear.
love it. Could you
Yeah.
imagine that happening nowadays? It
You
just
you
wouldn't.
know, Christopher Eccleston was stood there with a cup of coffee that someone had just made him, and he was there just about to take a sip, and then suddenly someone just shouts "bus," and he has to throw the cup, and
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
that'll
you'd
be
be
why
fuming
he
if you
hates
messed up
Doctor
your
Who
line.
now. Oh yeah,
Oh
wouldn't you
damn.
just? What do you think of? We'll just briefly touch on it. What do you think of Mickey? He's not much of a character in this, but
Yeah. Do I think he was hard done by the kind of thing? I mean, I've got to say, I thought they were going to go ballsy right out the bat, and they were going to kill him off. I genuinely, I thought I was watching it. It's when it gets absorbed by the wheelie bin. I thought,
oh, that's. We'll talk about that in a second. That's
yeah,
fucking strange. That's
and I
where the
thought,
CGI looks the worst, I reckon.
yeah, it was a bit strange. But going back to Mickey, I genuinely thought that was going to be. Is it a MacGuffin that you kind of have that's your goal to go towards an objective? I can't remember if it's a MacGuffin or not, but
Oh, I
I
know what you
I
mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought that was going to be her reason
He
to
dies, so
kind of
she then decides to pack it up and travel with the
to
doctor.
to follow with the doctor. Like,
Her
i.e., her
motivation, yeah.
workplace. Yeah, her workplace was blown up. With the doctor. The boyfriend dies of a wheelie bin, and I genuinely thought that they were going to kill the mum off as well. But like, it was just like, okay,
Hey,
fair enough, And I don't know if he comes back or not. I mean, he could provide some level of humanity for Rose, I guess. That kind of, missing that homesickness for Rose when she's traveling with the doctor. It's almost like this is brilliant, but I miss this back home. So I'm assuming they'll visit that down the line. But he
we'll
seems
get
like an
there,
all
yeah.
right lad. Yeah.
He does, but I see. I especially maybe having seen him in future episodes, but maybe not. No spoilers. I've always thought Mickey was sound and, like you said, hard done by. But then there's that bit just after uh, the department store gets blown up, and he comes around. He's like, "Oh my god, are you okay? You need something to drink." And she's like, "There's a football game on, isn't it?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm actually just going to go and watch it if that's all right." I'm like, "Come on, mate. What sort of a boyfriend are you? Who would do that?"
Well, I don't know. You've been out of the UK far too long, haven't you?
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe. I don't.
no, I'm
Do you
kidding.
think that's normal? That sounds like a dick thing to do.
Well, to be honest though, I guess that kind of thing was to show that maybe a kind of a sense of ignorance. The whole saying ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
I think that's that kind of that level of it's not because he's being a dick about it. It's just he doesn't realize the gravity of the situation. It's almost like he's she's I don't know, lost a trainer or something like that, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's just come down the pub and just forget about it. He doesn't correspond with her workplace. Literally got blown up while she was there.
Yeah, I think
You
it
know,
shows. Yeah, I think it shows like there's clearly a kink in that dynamic, and she's clearly not that happy or satisfied with the relationship. And I think that's amplified um, when he's being kidnapped by the SD
oh
conscious and he's just hugging
no,
the TARDIS. Like, oh God, I don't
oh
want to do anything. I'm just gonna leave him. I think he said at one point, he's like, leave him. Let's go.
yeah,
Let's go.
no, that's
Let's go.
right. Yeah, no, he's at the door and he just says, leave him, let's go. But I would like to think though, right, if somebody I knew very well, like Rose and Mickey, if they got taken over by a plastic monster and I was then at a very intimate dinner with them, I'd like to believe I'd have noticed a difference.
Do you
Especially
mean
when
if
it's
we went for dinner and my hair was completely made of shiny plastic, you'd probably notice? And I was going,
yeah,
pizza,
but
like that, you'd probably pick it up, right?
I would hope so. And again, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, she's really not noticed. She just hasn't noticed. So
Yeah.
I just, oh,
Yeah,
don't.
there's clearly something wrong in that relationship, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. Again, it's something I'm assuming they're going to explore further down the line. I mean, as I said, I'm kind of in the dark on this one, but yeah,
No
I think
spoilers.
yeah, it could be an interesting kind of subplot to pick up with. As I said, I think if anything, if I was a betting man, I'd say that they will probably do that homesickness. Something happens, reminds her of Mickey, and she goes, "I miss home." This is
Well,
great, but I miss home. But
there you go, listeners. If he said that live on air, if that doesn't happen, please feel free to leave comments berating Jack. Go to his
yeah,
house and throw toilet paper over his
please
house and
do.
stuff.
Not going to be the
Um,
worst thing I've probably said on this. The worst theory I've had anyway. But
right, so on that relationship between the two of them, 2005 was a weird time. She had to go around Mickey's house just to use the internet.
oh, don't. And
It
then he
dates
just
it a
shouts,
bit, doesn't it?
"Oh, don't!" And it's when he shouts, "Don't go on my emails." I was like,
Don't go.
"Oh." I
Brilliant.
was
I
just
also, so she doesn't Google, she uses whatever search engine she searches,
oh
and she goes, Dr. Blue Box. And I made a note of this,
yeah.
493 results come up. 493, full stop. That's it. I then
That's
put it into
incredible.
Google to see how many results come up. Would you like to take a guess?
Well,
How
I'm
many
guessing you're not.
results?
I'm guessing you're not the only Doctor Who fan to have Googled Doctor Blue Box anymore.
Go on, just give it a guess. Bearing in mind, it's 493 is the benchmark.
I'm going to say 25,000 plus.
737 million.
Oh, God. I knew it was
Million.
going to be more, but gee, that's loads. I mean,
She would never find Clive's website if she searched for it today.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean,
Right.
today she would have probably found another way of contacting him. TikTok. She could have done a TikTok or something.
Yeah.
But,
So
but yeah, no.
let's talk about Clive and his weird website. She's very lucky she didn't get raped in that shed, right? That
I
shed
know.
where the windows are boarded up. Come on.
Look,
That's
you, you
very.
you you have to keep the CIA out. You can't just have a window with no newspaper in it. I mean, come on. But I think she knew she was all right though when the son opened the door. Because if he'd have opened the door himself, then you'd have been like, okay, obviously he lives on his own. But when the son opened the door and then the wife was behind him, you're like,
Yeah,
I can
good point.
trust these.
A false
I
sense of
mean,
security, maybe. Yeah.
any
I
anybody
go.
listening wants to kidnap me, that is the way to do it. By the way,
Yeah.
just hire a child and a woman and go, yeah, that'll be all right. But that's
You'll
it.
drop
But
your guard immediately.
oh yeah, exactly.
I did like the casual sexism where the wife walks off and goes, "A woman is interested in your website about the doctor." Yeah, good. Good. And that's a pretty accurate comment on the fan base nowadays as well, I think.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's true.
so I Googled Clive's website and it is still a real working website. How brilliant is that?
Wow, that's incredible. Fair
It's
play to
pretty
them.
cool, right? It's got there's a contact us page section on there. You should go through it just fast, and it's got comments from just loads of randoms. But one of the users that's left a comment was Marty McFly, and he's just left the comment something like, "That man stole my DeLorean" or something along those
Ah,
lines. That attention to detail is pretty cool. I like that.
that's brilliant. But that again, that's when you have people that have genuine affection for for that thing.
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's what a lot of things miss nowadays. Marvel doesn't have that anymore. Marvel used to have that, but it doesn't anymore. So
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
that's
You're
cool.
absolutely right.
That's nice that they're still up.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I was doing some research into it. It turns out Clive, when he was a kid, his fascination for the Doctor is when he was a kid, he travelled with the best Doctor, the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi. So I thought that was quite interesting. They go on a Christmas adventure with each other, I think, is what it said. So yeah, that's where
Yeah, I
his
was gonna say
fascination comes from.
it wasn't going to be after because they bumped him off, didn't they, at the end of the episode?
Mate, that is, we'll get, oh, let's just jump straight to it. They point blank shoot him in the face in front of his family.
I mean,
This is a
two
kid's
things.
show.
I know. And that was the thing as well. Again, one of the last points I made was Southern guns, because you have these mannequin monsters, right? And you're like, okay, they're gonna, and this is the thing as well. When they were chasing Rose down like kind of the basement hallway,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were,
they're just karate
trying to go
chopping.
for the
Yeah.
chop, yeah, like a little bit of a karate chop, and that's it. And then suddenly they're in the middle of a shopping center, and they've all got straps, and it's just like, where has that come from? How
Where
does the
has that come from? You're
I
right.
don't understand. And I know this is Doctor Who and it's sci-fi and everything, but where is the firing mechanism in the arm? It's a mannequin.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Maybe that department store was building guns into the mannequins. That's the only explanation for it. Like the
Honestly,
maddest security in the world. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, all you have to do is you have a shoplifter. They just press a button behind the till, and then suddenly the mannequins just all turn around. And it's like RoboCop. It's just like cease and desist. You're
Yeah.
just like, oh my. I don't know. God, I tell you what, you'd be bricking it if you walked out, accidentally without paying anything. But
Yeah. Could
yeah,
you
no,
imagine?
I can't believe they called Clive though. I mean,
Like, and look, I'm just baffled by the way they fucking did it as well. Just in front of his, this is a kids show. In front of his family, they just drop their hand and shoot that man in the face. Those kids, if they made it out of there, are fucked. Like,
oh yeah,
there's
for sure.
no way they're growing up to be normal people. That should be a villain in one of the upcoming series. Is this kid that's been so traumatized by these walking fucking, oh, just mental. I was like, I've watched this 100 times, and I was like, fuck, in the face, like
Well,
insane.
maybe that child became Greta Thunberg or something like that. That's why she hates plastic so
That's
much.
why she hates plastic. You're right. It all
Because that
makes
was that
sense.
that was another point I wrote as well, is the fact that the doctor came up with an anti-plastic serum
Yeah.
kind of thing to drop in the thing, and I was sitting there thinking, one, that would help us out massively nowadays. Where is it? And two, I just put a note. Greta Thunberg would love that. Just an anti-plastic serum. And that was it. But no, I've got to say, I was quite shocked at how they just, as you say, how they killed him, and when they killed him. It's just like, oh, I thought he was gonna stick around and may have provided a bit of almost like a guy in the chair kind of thing. But
Yeah, he would have
yeah,
been a cool addition, actually. Yeah, he would have
I'm
been.
I'm on board with it. I think that's kind of a thing that shows you. And again, you'll know more than I do, but I think that's them trying to show that nobody is safe.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyone could die. And I like that. It keeps the tension. It does keep the tension.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so the finale then. By the way, we've only got 4 minutes left, then we're going to have to do another Zoom meeting, just
I saw
FYI,
I
when
saw
we
the
get
little
cut off.
counter on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay. So the finale, they're underneath the. Oh, by the way, lots of countries have a north. Lots of planets have a north. What a sick line! Just explain
Yeah.
it away. Who cares about accents? It doesn't matter. That's just. I
Yeah.
love that. That's a brilliant line. But yeah, so they're underneath the London Eye. There's this weird CGI red face thing. Um, when they find Mickey, I've got to know here that they say Mickey says, "It can talk, it can talk." And then it
Yeah.
proceeds not to say a word of English, right? It just grumbles or talks in this different. What the hell's Mickey on?
I don't know. No, maybe because it connected. Like maybe he's got like a kind of a connection with it because it absorbed him in the wheelie bin.
Ah, okay. Which is just a
Kind of.
nonsense thing, right? That whole
Yeah.
wheelie bin sequence, I think they're going with the whole Doctor Who, we can make anything scary. But that doesn't work, does it? Just having this weird wobbly wheelie bin that starts in. Would you have been scared of wheelie bins as a kid if you'd have seen that?
Probably not. But then I could have blamed. I mean, how old was I? 2005. What was it?
7 or 8, I
Was
think,
it
right?
8, 7 or 8? So yeah, maybe. I mean, if you'd have maybe seen it when you was 4 or 5, then maybe. Like you'd look twice at a wheelie bit. Maybe you give it a little bit of a nudge before you kind of open it up. But
I
it was
just think
just the fact
they
that
go on.
I was going to say it was like a weird. his hands stuck to the bin first, and it was just,
It's
yeah, it was an interesting one.
it was an interesting one. I think they did such a good job at making shop dummies scary, and every day that you see them everywhere you go, and they really
Oh yeah,
cocked it up on that really bit. I think they. But
yeah.
then, how else do you kidnap them? I guess.
Well, with one of those dummies or something. I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
You need a
we
professional team of writers to come up with something. Oh, they did.
well, that's true. But then we are discounting the fact that that man had an evil wheelie bin and he knew nothing about it. It made no attempt to eat the man or his family. He just rolled it out on bin day. He's just like, yeah, brilliant. That's it. How many
What was
neighbours'
it?
cats do
Consuming
you
his
think went?
rubbish?
Well, do you think like kind of there should have been missing cat posters all the way down the road? Like, have you seen my cat? And the guy's just
Unless
like,
there
oh,
is, yeah. Unless that the guy that owns that house has already been eaten. Maybe that's another ruined family in this
yeah,
episode.
there we go. We wouldn't have noticed. I mean, we wasn't on an intimate dinner with him, but we he might have been plastic. He could have had the slick back hair and everything. But yeah,
Speaking of ruined families, let's, for the minute we've got left, briefly talk about Jackie, who in this
mm,
episode I think is one of the most annoying people I've ever seen in my life. God,
she
she does
needed
my head in this
she
episode.
needed a glass of water. She was thirsty. She
She
was
was
thirsty.
thirsty, but it's oh, cause you know, oh, I've got blah 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 on the line. You need to speak to her. You're entitled for compensation, and then she's in all the screaming at the end. Oh,
Again,
she
you've
infuriates me.
you've been out of London and Essex for too long because that is what would happen around here. A lot of the time something like that happens, it would be like that, and it's not so much to be annoying. It's just that they're being caring, but they're being over caring. If that makes sense. That's
No, I hear
um,
you. I hear you. I must admit, when yeah, the whole conversation, it did remind me a little bit of my dad the last time I came home because he was putting me on the phone to strangers and being like, "Oh, just say hello to this guy," and I'm like, "Dad, I love you. I can see that this is a caring thing, but I don't know who this is, and I don't want to
yeah.
talk to them."
No, and that's it. But I mean, that's a parent thing, though, isn't it? You want the best for
Exactly. Yeah.
your
Exactly.
child. I get that.
Right. So let's talk about the TARDIS. What did you think of the TARDIS?
Right. I've got to say, I could. I wish I could have watched it without knowing anything about Doctor Who. It's almost like
Okay.
going to the Star Wars bit where Darth Vader is revealed as Luke's father.
Yes.
I
Yes.
always
You want the
when I
surprise? Yeah.
watched Empire Strikes Back, I always knew that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father. So it was almost like it lost that edge kind of thing. And I think that's where I've been enjoying the Marvel movies, because you get that first time reaction, that fresh, raw reaction that is just,
Yeah.
wow, that's incredible. I mean, when we went to watch Endgame, that bit where Captain America, he's wielding Thor's hammer
Yeah.
and the whole
Yeah.
cinema just erupted. Like I've missed that. And I wish that I didn't know what the TARDIS was and everything like that, because as a
Yeah. You're
kid,
right.
that would have been phenomenal. Seeing this police box outside and going in, and it is just alien. It's huge. It's weird. It's just so cool. Like, and that's yeah. I've got to say, even knowing what it was, I was still pretty astounded by it. It was good, but
What do you think of the design? The outside does change season to season, but not enough to talk about. I don't think the best looking
okay,
outside of the TARDIS is Peter Capaldi's, obviously. But what do you think of the interior? What do you think of the design? Coral
yeah,
theme, it's called.
yeah, coral theme. I mean, you can see that because it's a lot of, from what I recall, a lot of orangey, browny kind of things. Yeah, kind of like tones.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I'm assuming is the color of coral. But I would never know. I've never seen coral up close, so who knows? But I've got to say they've kind of got that. I don't know if they were going for like a steampunky kind of alien tech. It was definitely alien. I mean that the center console itself is just far too many buttons and levers, all that stuff for a man to remember. But he manages
Yeah,
to
I
hit
love it.
every single one and everything like that, which is really cool. But it
It's
was very,
brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, it's very steampunky, very, as I said, alien, and that's the whole point because he is an alien. He's not from here. He's not, that's what you want. So yeah, I've got to say, I really like the look of it. Again, I'm assuming if the exterior changes, I'm assuming the interior changes as well. Is that correct?
Yes, there are a few iterations that the TARDIS goes through. Yeah, again, not being. This, I think, is probably my favourite interior, to be fair. I think this, like you said, it's very alien. It's very like, what the hell is this? How does it work? Is it a spaceship? Is it a living room? Like, you wouldn't be able to know. Like, you would not be able to tell. If you just saw a picture of that, fuck knows what it would be, right?
Yeah. And I've got to say, I think Rose had a reasonable reaction. So, of course, the first time she goes into the TARDIS, they're being chased by Mickey's mannequin, I suppose we could call him, in the
Yeah.
restaurant, isn't it? So they go out the back, and he's trying to. They lock the door, and he's breaking down the door, and the doctor says, "Quick, go in here." And she's like, "Yeah, but that's a police box, you know." And
Yeah,
she
you
goes
would.
in. She goes in, and then she comes back out because she just can't believe what's being seen, and the fear of something chasing them has been overridden by just sheer
Shock.
awe, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just shock. That's it. She's actually forgotten that she's being chased by something that actually wants to kill her. And she's just like, I've got to step back towards that to see what this is again, you know. And I actually think that's a reasonable reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same. I've been upset we didn't get a proper reaction from Mickey, but it's fine. Yeah, it's amazing, right? It is like, it would have blown your mind as a kid, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. As I said, yeah, go back to the whole reveal as a kid. You know, I wish that I didn't know that the inside of the TARDIS was bigger than the outside, you know,
Yeah,
because as a kid watching that fresh, I mean, that's just phenomenal. You're just going to be sat there on the sofa going, wow, look at that, you know. So, yeah, it's cool. It is cool. And I think that's the kind of thing that starts off a love for sci-fi and everything like that,
yeah,
you know, because I've got to say, I mean, not that I've read any of it or anything like that, but again, listening to the podcast, I'm aware there's a lot of writers out there that not not so much like fan fiction, but there are competitions for Doctor Who stories, and
yeah. No, absolutely.
I would hazard a guess. Of course, Star Trek is just Star Trek. That's a different kettle of fish. But I'd hazard a guess that Doctor Who is up there for the most amount of fan written stories, comics, the whole lot, you know, and that's because of, you know, everyone wants their piece of that cool moment, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly. So there's, again, jumping ahead a bit, but there's an episode in series two, uh, based entirely around a monster that a kid drew for Blue Peter, won a competition, and then had an episode of Doctor Who made based on that monster. It's
that's so cool.
it's pretty cool. It's regarded as one of the worst episodes of all time.
Oh
Um,
dear.
I actually don't mind it that much. But yeah, how cool is that, right? Could you imagine?
Oh yeah.
I don't know why that passed me up as a kid. I definitely should have been writing in trying to get an episode made.
Oh, I'm
Totally
sorry.
was.
That poor kid wins the competition. It's like a roller coaster of emotions. You win the competition. You're like, yes, this is it. It's really really good. And then the reviews come out, and they're just like, yeah, this is like one of the worst episodes there is.
Absolutely
Like,
slating it. Yeah,
you go through Mount Everest right the way down to the trench at the bottom of the Amazon.
you
And
would
you
do.
just,
Yeah, you would do.
oh,
I wonder what that
that's a
kid went
stinker.
on to be.
Chris
Chris
Chibnall,
Chibnall.
probably. God, see, I know this stuff. This is the kind of stuff I
Fucking
know.
hell.
I know that Chris Chibnall's a bad writer. Yeah.
um, Fair enough. So I've got a couple of just miscellaneous things. If you don't have, if you've sort of spoken about everything that you want, or have you got anything left in your
Yeah,
notes?
no, I think that's it. I'm pretty happy. I'd say everything I've gone through all my notes anyway. So
So there's a couple of mentions throughout the episode of war, and we don't really know what that means yet. I'm not going to spoil it for you,
yes,
JP, but keep it in your head. What I would say is there's a lot of stuff. What you should do is watch up to the 50th anniversary, which, by the way, is 10 years ago this year. I fucking remember it like it was yesterday. So the
ooh, okay.
50th sort of fills in the gaps of how Christopher Eccleston got here, how the Ninth Doctor got here, right? So it'd be
Hmm.
interesting for you to go back. Again, I'm sort of gutted Brad's not here because I could have been asking Brad these questions again without spoiling anything to see what
Yeah,
he thinks of Christopher Eccleston, knowing what comes forward. But yeah, so there's a few mentions of a war. Just keep that in mind. That's a payoff that might not come back for 5 series, maybe. Jesus Christ. And also, he
well,
mentions, like you said when he's throwing the book, the Shadow Proclamation, which again, just keep your eyes peeled for it. Just listen out for it. It might come back a few times. But my task to you for the next 12 weeks or however many episodes there are, maybe even more, I think, maybe 12, I think.
Okay. Okay.
This series has a recurring Easter egg that gets paid off in the finale. All of the series, every Doctor Who thing does really. They'll lay the seeds of something that's gonna culminate. So
Okay.
yeah, so just keep your eyes peeled for that. Don't ruin it for yourself. Don't spoil it. Don't talk to Brad. I'll tell him not to tell you. See if you can pick up on it, because on a rewatch, it's dead obvious. But
Okay.
I'd be intrigued to see if you.
So okay. So there's something in every episode that leads up to the finale of that season.
Yes, yes. I'm wondering if
Okay.
I can give you an example. So let's jump right ahead to the Jodie Whittaker era. Normally, it happens over
Yep.
a series and then culminates at the end of the series. Chris Chibnall apparently tried to do it over all of his series. So in her
Oh.
first or second episode, she gets called the Timeless Child. It then, I'm sure you've heard me and Brad talk about this. It then doesn't get brought up until like her final episode again, where it turns out she's the timeless child because of blah 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 blah, and the whole final episode is built around that. So in
Okay.
these earlier seasons, it's a little, well, I don't know if it's smaller scale, but yeah, there's an Easter egg laid specifically throughout this season. Can you get it before we get to the end?
Okay. Yeah. That's gonna. So that's gonna be the closing question on how many episodes is season
I think
one.
it's 12. I want to say.
So that's gonna be the question because or did I do this thing where it's a two-parter for the end of the season?
Uh, End of the season is a three-parter, and there's a
Oh
two-parter in
God.
here somewhere as well. So yeah, we'll do all the multi. I think it's a three-parter. It's kind of a three-parter. We'll decide when we get there. Yeah, so we'll
Okay.
do all two-parters. All if it's one storyline, we'll do it as one episode. I think is the
Yeah.
easiest way, because what you find with the two-parters is the first bit is sort of not filler, but it's all set up. So you'll either find yourself talking about everything in the first episode, and then there's not much to say in the finale, or vice versa. Not much will happen in the first episode, and then everything in the finale. So I think it makes sense just to knock them out as one episode.
Okay. So pretty much the episode before that we deal with the finale, the closing question to me is going to be what is the Easter egg, and then we
I'm
can all
gonna,
laugh on the
I'm
third thing.
yeah, I'm gonna check in with you every episode. I think because there
Okay.
is it's mentioned or alluded to or whatever you want to call it in every episode. So I will continuously check in to see if you're picking it up or if you're on the right track. But I will not spoil it
Yeah.
for you at all.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
No, that sounds like a challenge. Yeah.
yeah, the other thing I thought we should do, the other thing I thought we should have to do is because I love Doctor Who, but quite a lot of it is crap. If I'm being honest with you, I love Christopher Eccleston, love David Tennant, hate Matt Smith, love Peter Capaldi, not a big fan of Jodie Whittaker. Um, all of Matt Smith, I'm very disinterested when it comes to Matt Smith and Jodie Whittaker. And my favourite Doctor Peter Capaldi has some of the worst episodes of Doctor Who in it. David Tennant has some of the worst episodes. So I think we should do, rather than being like, oh, this was okay, I rated it 7 out of 10, let's just give a rating at the end of every episode. Hate it or love it. Just keep it black and white like that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I think that's a good shout. I am going to say love this episode. I thought it was good. It was a good intro. Get me interested as someone that's never seen Doctor Who. I thought it was interesting. It's interesting enough that I sat there and genuinely considered watching the second episode, and I was just like, I can't because that otherwise many a shouting will be thrown at me. But yeah, no, I love it. What about you? What about you, Josh?
Yeah, it's a definite love it for me. Definite love it for me. What a way to kick things off. There's big debate in the Hugh community, the community. No, it's just called the Hugh community.
Community. Oh my
Um,
goodness.
about where, if you were introducing someone to Doctor Who, where would you start them? And the top competitor, there's an episode called Blink. They always say start there. We'll get to it. They say
Yep.
start at Matt Smith's first episode, but they very rarely say start here. And I don't know why you wouldn't start here. If I'm being honest with you.
No, I mean, it's the I again knowing nothing about Doctor Who, like in terms of the actual story. I know Blink is with the Weeping Angels.
Yes,
Again,
yes.
I'm a nerd. I've not lived under a rock. It's like I know what happens in Lord of the Rings, and I've never seen Lord of the Rings. yeah,
How have
it.
you never seen
I
Lord of
know,
the
I
Rings?
know.
Don't get me wrong,
Same
it's
reason.
crap and it's so long, but
But this is the thing, though. I know, about Blink and yeah, with the
yeah,
Weeping Angels and everything, but I don't specifically know about the timeline. So I know it was mentioned about the Time War. I've heard of the Time War. Couldn't tell you what it was about
yeah.
though, but
So
it's stuff
that's
like
what
that.
all
So
comes to light in the 50th. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But this is the thing though, because I I it's like the Star Wars films, for example. Where do you start with the Star Wars films? Do you watch it chronologically, or do you watch it in the order that they were actually produced? Now,
That's a
for me,
hard question, man.
I'd always say watch them in the order they were produced.
See, I sort of agreed, but I've changed it because watching A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, amazing films, but they are quite dated.
They're dated, yes, agreed.
They're
They're
not
dated,
very
yes,
exciting. I would
but
my order for because I was going to get Laura to do this. I'd start with Rogue One, go in with so Rogue One, New Hope, Empire, then go back to Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. Then you do Return of the Jedi, and the sequels don't exist anyway, so it's fine.
oh god, yeah, uh, yeah. The
Because you
less
need
said
the
about the sequels, the better. Yeah,
yeah,
I
exactly.
guess you need that background, but
Because
I don't
Empire is
know.
quite it's an amazing film. I love it, but it's quite a boring film. Like I wouldn't my little brothers, if I sat them down to watch even A New Hope or Empire, they'd be like, "This is sorry, Grandad, what are we watching? Let's put fucking I don't know Endgame on, or Spider Man Across the
Yeah,
Multiverse, or whatever that cartoon was all about."
yeah. No, I mean that's true, but again, you need the right audience, and I think this is where it's going back to Doctor Who. You eh, depending on that audience. I mean, the first time I watched Star Wars, I watched it kind of not chronologically, but watched it as it came out. I mean,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
I think probably the first Star Wars film I saw in cinema would have been Attack of the Clones, maybe even Revenge of the Sith. I'm not sure, but I hadn't had the benefit, so everything that's come after that I've watched just as it's come out, and then of course
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing a rewatch, I'll always do it chronologically. I'll always watch Phantom Menace first, and then the Rise of Skywalker last. But I don't know, with Doctor Who, I think you need to experience what other people have experienced.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no, I hate.
no, nobody in their right mind, kind of back in 2005, nobody watching Rose would have gone, right, now I'm going to jump ahead 10 years in the future and I'm going to
Yeah,
watch the
yeah.
50th, I'm going to watch the 50th anniversary. You need that kind of, because the writers are writing, all right, they have, one mind in the future as well, but they are writing to keep the audience captivated for that season there and then. And that's why I think it's better to watch, especially for me as well. That's why I was happy when you said, look, let's just go from, let's go New Who season 1, episode 1. That's just done.
Yeah,
So
exactly. No, no, it
yeah,
absolutely is the best way to do it. It's the best way to do it. We've got a good couple of months coming up. I'm very excited to go through this first season again, to be
so am
honest with
I.
you.
To be honest, so am I. And as I said, I watched the end of season 1. Can't tell you. Watched the end of episode 1, and I was sitting there genuinely. I was thinking of texting you saying, look, let's do it a couple of episodes. Let's review a couple of episodes all in one podcast, because it was interesting. I'm like, I can't wait. And again, I suppose that's the wait until next week to find out what happens.
Yeah, well, you don't
So
get that with streaming anymore, right?
you
That's,
don't.
it's a
Well, you
different
kind
way
of
of
do,
watching
but
TV.
yeah,
Some things. So, all right, let's talk about the next time. Did you watch the next time trailer?
I did. So the next time, so it looks like they go to the very end of the world. I
Yes,
think he
which is
said,
the
did he
episode
say
title, "The End of the World." Yeah.
the end of the world? And I think he said it was like 5 million BC or something like that from memory.
I
Maybe
think
be.
it's 5 million dot Apple dot bibliotech dot something like that. I think they come up with a really weird way of doing it.
Yeah. So in fact, it wouldn't be BC, it'd be AD because it's yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, anyway. Um, there is the thing that kind of struck me the most. They're obviously watching the end of the world from a window. Which, if the world was ending, would I be stood behind a window? I'd probably be hiding behind at least something a bit more solid. But hey ho.
yeah, it's got
The
shields
other
and
thing,
stuff. Go on.
did he say that was the kind of beef jerky looking thing that rolls up at the end? The kind of, I don't know how you describe it. The stretched out skin with the face.
Yes, Cassandra.
Cassandra. There we go. Did he say that was the last human on Earth?
He did, yeah, he did.
Interesting. In that
Well,
case, what happened to humanity?
there.
Because
Well, I absolutely the right question. We will speak about it next week. But Russell T. Davis, the writer, is massively outspoken on stuff like this. It does turn out to be a comment on plastic surgery going too far. Like that is directly
really,
addressed in the episode. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's the monster of the week is humanity in this one, and plastic surgery and it all going too far. I just want to
oh
say,
dear,
we'll obviously go into it next week, but next week's episode, I think it must have been the first one I watched as a kid. I think I must have missed this episode because whenever I think of Doctor Who, next week's episode is the episode I think of. It's just where I go default for whatever reason. I think
interesting.
it's the one I've watched the most. I think, as I said, I must have just seen it first. I must have missed the first week's episode. Because, yeah, for me, next week's episode is Doctor Who. That's what comes up into my mind. So I'm really looking forward to watching it this week and talking about it with you. And
Interesting.
hopefully
No,
we'll have
so am I.
confidence.
Yeah, no, so am I. It's going to be interesting. It's very interesting that there will, I'm assuming is it Russell T Davies that's writing or that wrote these Doctor Who's? Is it did he write this season or?
Yeah, he does most of them. I think he gets other writers involved with a few. You've obviously got Stephen Moffat writes a couple of episodes.
Hmm.
I'm sure there's a couple of others, but yeah, he comes up. So he's a show. So I believe his job is he comes up with the overall story arc and what he wants to happen in each episode, and then they get additional writers in to create a story around it. I think is my understanding of it anyway.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That is interesting. As I said, I'm looking forward, genuinely looking forward to watching the next episode because, yeah, I've got to say, it's done what a pilot should. It's hooked me. I'm interested. I'm
I
intrigued.
love it. Right. So, yeah, my task for the week,
Yeah,
your task is to go and watch that. Mine is also, I'm going to get this bad boy edited and uploaded. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure. So it might be, let's say it will be done by Friday. We'll definitely have it posted by Friday.
yeah.
Um, we will, behind the scenes, create a logo, create a proper name and all stuff like that we have to think about now. And yeah, hopefully we should be up and running. We maybe have a YouTube account going as well. Hopefully let's give ourselves a deadline of Friday.
I think Friday's a good shout. Friday's a very good shout. And look, I think with the YouTube channel, I think I mean, again, it's what people want, and of course, I do appreciate that people are gonna yeah, people will be tagging along as we go through these things. But I'm thinking maybe going back to what you said about doing the almost like a live reaction of the latest Doctor Who episodes.
Yeah,
A YouTube
definitely.
channel could be a great shout. At the end of the day, I'm sure we could make something work there, and it'd be interesting to see what kind of us as a live reaction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's all stuff for the future. But as I said, I know it's very early on, but if you are listening and you do have any ideas of stuff that you want us to do, by all means, fire us a comment or an email, and yeah, we'll pick it up.
Exactly. Right. Well, Jack, thank you very much, mate. I'm glad you're hooked on Doctor Who. I'm looking forward to discussing next week's episode with you and
As am I.
the next episode.
Excellent.
And as we mentioned up top, hopefully we'll have a third party here with us, Bradley Fuller. He, like me, loves Doctor Who. So we can talk a little bit more about the future and what happens and get more of a retrospective point of view without spoiling things. Yeah, we'll see if that dynamic works for us. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe, all that nonsense. And yeah, adios, amigos.